Welcome back to another discussion. Shane, GTC. What are the differences between the Hellcat and the Redeye? Let's get into it. Recently, my brother purchased a Hellcat Redeye. And I just asked, what's the difference between that and the Hellcat? And almost always the response, even from the dealership, was, well, the Hellcat Redeye, last call jailbreak makes 807 horsepower. Used to be 797 for the regular Redeye, and the Hellcat makes 707. That's what everybody talks about. Okay, there's got to be more than that, because Jared and I used to laugh that, okay, you're going to buy a scat pack and is $20,000 really worth a blower and some sway bars? It's way more than that. To the untrained eye, visually, and intentionally done by the manufacturers, there's little distinction between the Hellcat and the Hellcat Redeye. But also there's little distinction between scat pack and Hellcat to the untrained eye. And there's little distinction between scat pack and GT and some of the entry level on purpose, right? Manufacturers know how to keep costs low, but manufacture a winning design that can be had across all price points, right? Every manufacturer does this. Look at the Mustang. You can have a Mustang and from far away, unless you really knew how to look for the 5.0 badge or some of the side skirting or maybe some of the quad pipes in the back, most people just go, oh, there's a Mustang. Case in point, and this is nothing against my wife because I think that this is pretty typical, is when I first bought my scat pack, she'd see a Dodge Charger and she'd be, oh, there's your car. And I'd be like, okay, first of all, that's not a wide body. Second of all, that's a GT, mine's a 392. So it was always like, well, what's a wide body, right? So then you had to educate people how to look for the wide body and the big wheels. And this is super common. That's a very normal response, is just understanding the differences between the two. And I get it. It's the same with my BMW. 340i looks like a 325, looks like a 330, looks like, they do it on purpose. So should manufacturers actually make or attempt to design a vehicle with greater distinction at the higher end? No, I think you could argue that. I think people that are buying cars at that price point want to have something that is gives them something that at really first glance you could say, oh, that is a XYZ. So if you pulled up and you looked over and saw the Hellcat Redeye, from what I understand, there's really two things that from the aesthetics make it look different. One is there's slightly larger hood vents, right, for cooling purposes. And the second is there's a little red eye jewel that's found in the Hellcat logo. And other than that, correct me if I'm wrong, from everything that I read and understand, visually they look very, very similar. Okay, that's cool. So let's talk about where the real distinction is. And that's under the hood and in the driveline. All right, so just to start off, we talked about the horsepower differences. So 707 Hellcat, 807, and I'm talking Redeye Jailbreak. I know that the Redeye 797. But actually, the Redeye Hellcat shares more in common with the Demon than it really does, and I'm talking in terms of drivetrain and motor, than it does with the Hellcat. So beyond the horsepower, the Hellcat has a 2.4 liter supercharger, and it pushes 11.6 pounds of boost. The Redeye has a 2.7 liter twin scroll supercharger that makes 14.5 psi of boost. Now that doesn't sound like a big difference, 11.6 to 14.5, and I'm not a gearhead or a mechanic or people that play with boost, but those people in the boost world turning up 3 pounds of boost clearly made a big difference, made 100 more horsepower. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. In order to survive all this power, the Redeye drivetrain is strengthened, the components, And according to Dodge, there's about 15% stronger drive shaft and 20% stronger axles to put up with that added torque. Makes sense. It makes sense. All right, so moving on, when you lift up the hood of the Redeye, I didn't know that it offers an open box air induction system, and it is huge. So from what I understand, the Hellcats offer sort of the dual snorkel, and I know it's been designed, but dual snorkel, air coming in through into a closed box system. The Redeye now has a huge, in fact, they say it's up to 14.8 liters in terms of size, open air box that's designed to suck that cold air in through the hood and force it into that air box. The conical filter that flows, they say, is 72% better than the flat filter in terms of moving air through. Makes sense. And so you're kind of catching the theme here that everything they're doing is to support this added power. Now let's talk about the fuel system. And I say because this thing sucks down fuel like no other. I'm absolutely astonished. So with all that air being jammed in, supercharger and the cold air intake, this engine is capable of depleting 510 pounds of fuel an hour. It feels like I'm talking about like an F-18 or F-16 jet fighter. I mean, come on. This thing is absolutely depleting fuel at a rapid rate. In fact, they say that the fuel injectors are capable of spraying 1.36 gallons per minute. Now, if you think about that, most shower heads are like 1.8 to 2 gallons per minute. So in essence, you got a shower head of fuel just spraying into that engine to keep up and make all that power. Astonishing. If fuel economy is what you want, look elsewhere. Hey, 807 horsepower, it takes a lot. All right, moving on to the inside, and I'm not gonna because honestly, this is above my pay grade, and I'm not gonna sit down and break down the technicals, but my point is, there are about 30% different components inside. The Redeye shared with the Superstock, and most of what I'm about to say are the Redeye and Superstock, but are distinct from the Hellcat. They have different cylinder heads, valve springs, spring retainers. They have a different camshaft. They've got a red painted engine block that protects it against high heat, and it's made of high strength cast iron. The pistons are unique. I talked about that earlier. The connecting rods in the Redeye are totally unique. They're the strongest rods used in any production Hemi, and Dodge says they're designed. Oh, I got my friend here. Hi. Here, come on. Come down here, little buddy. Oh! Dodge says they're designed to withstand more than 200,000 PSI of internal pressure. Mind-blowing. Let's move on to the lubricating system. Roughly double the cooling flow of the standard Hellcat and about 33% more oil flow at the rocker arms. Okay, finally, the cooling system, I didn't know this, is really neat. The Hellcat, they share this really elaborate cooling system, as you can imagine. But what's unique is this SRT chiller system.
And the first ever factory production intake chiller system. When in drag mode, this system diverts the Demon's air conditioning system to supercool the liquid to air charge air coolers. This drops the intake air temps by over 45 degrees.
You could boil water in about 1.2 seconds with the amount of heat that these engines deflect through this elaborate cooling system, both oil, air, all of it. It's absolutely mind-boggling, and I have an all-new appreciation for these cars, all of them. The Hellcat, the Scat Pack, and I want to be real clear. This is not me trying to separate and put the Superstocks and the Demons and the Redeyes on some sort of a pedestal, because all of those cars are phenomenal. I wanted a Hellcat forever. I still want a Hellcat. Do I need a Redeye? No, but it helps me understand when before it felt like, oh, it was just a PCM tune, which there is a difference in the PCM as well, tune, and maybe a different blower, and some injectors might be different, but you can see there is a tremendous amount of engineering that went into all of these cars. But the difference to just go from 707 to 797 or 807 is an engineering feat. And I so appreciate this so much more now, just kind of understanding that it's not just that simple. And so the next time you Hellcat owners and you Redeye owners are getting in your car, maybe you can appreciate the engineering that went into that, or maybe you already do and appreciate it more. But more so, you can understand if you are choosing between the two, what is different about those. And it's not just a blower and a tune, it's much more than that. So I hope this was helpful. I learned a lot. I'm sorry for any mistakes. I'm happy to be corrected. It did say I'm not a mechanic, I'm not even a gearhead, but I try to educate myself, and I try to condense this and make this so that somebody else can learn from that. So I look forward to your comments. And for all you guys out there that have your Scat Packs, Hellcats, GTs, Redeyes, we love them all. And hope you guys enjoy this channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, this is Shane, GTC.